Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, thanks for joining us once again.
Karen, thanks for having me back on your show.
Even if it is remotely, but I guess we're used to that these days. So one of the issues you've been talking about a lot in recent weeks is childcare, or the lack of childcare, and how the pandemic has made it worse. What are some of your main concerns about that?
Well, Karen, we had a crisis way before the pandemic. I mean, this is every woman who has struggled to try and get someone to watch their children so they can go to work has faced this specter of too few slots, too expensive, not accessible, not affordable. But then you bring a pandemic into it. I mean, this is just a collision course that is just incomprehensible how families are struggling. Think about the early days. We had to allow the frontline workers, the essential workers, to be able to leave the security of their homes. When all of us are hunkering down, they had to go into the hospitals. Healthcare workers, 77% of healthcare workers are women. Who's watching their kids? Then we have the people working in the grocery stores. 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women. Who's watching their kids? So since March, I mean, this has really come to a head. And now compound all this with the fact that children may not be occupied in school for your school-age children from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. the way they would have in the past. So now what do you do? So Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and I traveled the state. We went to 6 different cities. We had forums on this, pointing to the fact that the federal government has to help us solve this crisis. They gave some initial money back in March, wasn't enough. And as part of the package we're looking for from Mitch McConnell to do the right thing for all states, not just blue states, this affects the red states, and for us to get the economy going again. There will no full recovery of our economy unless women are able to get back to jobs and that their children are cared for. And the federal government has a major role to play in that.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot in there you just said to unpack. One of the things I noted when you were traveling with Senator Gillibrand, she said that up to 50% of child care centers in the state might close and close permanently. Because if you think about it, there's a lot of obstacles to providing safe child care during COVID. I mean, for one thing, small children, toddlers, they can't really wear masks and they don't social distance. So there's a lot of concerns from the child care providers, right?
If this was a provider who took children into their home all the way to a larger one, we had to scale back the number of children. So if you're trying to earn an income as a child care provider and all of a sudden 50%, or you're down to 25% or less, less than 50% of what you would have had, first of all, the economics don't work out. But also the concern about your own children. You may be someone watching other people's kids in your home, and your own children are exposed now to that outside world during a pandemic. So it's frightening for people. And so we are losing slots. At one time, we were down to having 1 slot for every 4 children in need. Now it's about 1 in 7. I mean, this is just cataclysmic. And I've spoken to so many CEOs of major companies, from Buffalo to Brooklyn, asking them, what is your biggest concern about recharging this economy, how we can supercharge it and come back and really just go on all cylinders? And they said their biggest obstacle, and it surprised the heck out of me, they all said childcare, because they know that they now finally have more women in the workplace, and those women cannot leave the children home alone, and there's nobody to watch them. And you can't bring in your mother or father like you might have been able to rely on that. And so employers have to have flexibility, stagger hours, help find childcare. I've said to some of the larger employers, can you take your cafeteria space, convert it into a childcare center, and you hire people to come in and watch the kids who otherwise would be in school, set up little laptops and make sure someone's making sure they're getting their work done. There's a lot of ways that employers can help solve this problem in addition to the government providing resources.
But as you mentioned, the child care issue goes beyond the pandemic. Now, you and I have been in politics and journalism a little while. It seems like I have been covering or talking about this issue for decades, and it never gets resolved. Do you find that at all frustrating?
Oh, yeah. I had children 32 years ago working as a young staffer on Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan's staff. I was an attorney. I loved my job, but the hours were crazy. I mean, we would work morning till night, and sometimes we literally pulled all-nighters when they were in session. You have a child, nobody to watch the kids. I didn't have parents. I didn't have family. I didn't have a support system. I was from New York. I'm down in Washington. And I literally had to walk away from that. And I tried to start a little business at home, a little consulting business with a second baby at home. And I had a tiny house. next to my washing machine and dryer, I set up a little desk, put a couple toys under it, and that was my office. And you could hear my kids. I'd be on the phone with a client, and I'd say, "Oh, that child care center down the hall is too noisy today." It's like, those are my kids under my desk. So it was tough, and it's so frustrating to me that 30 years later, when my children are child-rearing age, that we haven't figured this out yet. I mean, that is absolutely pathetic. And I am sick and tired of this being a reason why women do not live up to their full economic potential, their full earning potential for their families, which their families need, but also their own self-fulfillment to become a partner in a law firm because you can put in the hours, become a CEO because you've been able to have the child care angle figured out, as well as just people trying to get out there and earn a living wage. And so it's every end of the socioeconomic scale, women are hit the hardest once again.
Well, speaking of women's issues this year, as you well know, is the 100th anniversary of women winning the right to vote, at least white women. For women of color, it's been more of a struggle. I thought we'd be doing something really fun in Seneca Falls this summer, a big celebration, and obviously that's not going to happen because of the pandemic. I'm wondering, do you have concerns about not just women, but everyone's right to vote this fall, with all we've been hearing about the post office slowing down, mail-in ballots, absentee ballots, sometimes getting thrown out on technicalities? I mean, how are you feeling? Are you feeling optimistic about the vote this November, or do you have worries?
No, this is exasperating. I mean, this is a time we should be celebrating access to the ballot box that was denied women and people of color for the early part of our history. We finally remedy it with respect to, as you said, white women in 100 years ago. Women of color were not guaranteed that right until the Voting Rights Act of 1965, something that historians didn't quite acknowledge properly, and we're getting there. We're trying to fix that narrative. But that being said, 2020, we should not be talking about whether or not there's going to be any compromising of our right to vote. I mean, that is sacred. That's about as American as it gets, to be able to exercise that right to vote without any fear of interference. But for the way the president is undermining and creating a subterfuge that there's going to be fraud and scandal and people are going to steal the election, he is intentionally tarnishing that and undermining the post office. My God. If there's not an institution that we all understand has been there since before we had a constitution, I mean, this is part of America. Think about the Pony Express. I mean, we rely on them. And even now in those rural states and rural parts of our own state, people rely on the mail to give them their medicines. They come in the mail now, so people don't have to go out to the pharmacy during a pandemic. I think there's going to be a whole lot of people who are buying that narrative that Donald Trump is already putting out there, that this election is rigged or somehow undermined by fraud, and we cannot let that happen. I mean, we have to be the line of defense against that happening and accept the outcome, because we have to fight against any interference in the ability to vote by mail.
Well, that's a topic for a whole other interview, I think. We'll have to leave it there. Fingers crossed that everything works out well this fall. Thanks very much for joining us, Lieutenant Governor.
Good to see you again, Karen. Take care. Bye-bye. Come to Seneca Falls.
I will.